you do for a living? Answering that question may be harder than you think. Sometimes we get stuck. Are we saying it the right way? Sometimes we get too verbose and we say too many things. Having a clear, concise, and powerful way to lay out who you are, what you do, and more importantly, how it's going to impact those that you work with, that is a skill. And that is exactly what we are diving into today, the framework of crafting your personal brand message. You're not going to want to miss this. I'm Clara Capano, and this is Clarity in Action. Welcome to Clarity in Action. This is the show where we have real conversations that are going to challenge your perspectives and drive real action. So if you are tired of holding back and you're ready to make bold moves, this is the show for you. Join us as we are going to take you from confusion into clarity. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Clarity in Action, where we are breaking down myths and we are coming up with solutions that are going to drive you into action. Today, we are talking about our message. Simple question: what do you do for a living? And for some reason, so many of us stumble over that. Well, to help us to gain the clarity we need and the importance of knowing your brand message, I have my friend Laura Templeton. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here, Clara. It's always fun to hang out with you.
Definitely. Talking about what we do for a living and brand messaging, before we dive into the nuts and bolts of it, talk to us a little bit about what was your moment of clarity where you realized the importance of not just helping people, but maybe even for yourself of why you need to know how to say what you do.
Well, and I appreciate you asking that question, because one of the things that I realized when I stepped away from corporate work and became a stay-at-home mom and then stepped into network marketing, you need to understand what it is that you do in a way that then you can communicate it with others. So, I had done quite a bit of work with on that 30-second message, using networking as my platform for connecting with people, for building the business. But I had an aha moment when I was in a networking group and I watched too many amazing people just literally fall apart when it came time to do their 30-second message. I mean, there was one woman who was literally shaking. I'm like, wait, you know what you do. You're confident when you speak to people one-on-one, and yet in a room full of people, you cannot communicate exactly what it is that you do. And because I was very familiar with it, I was able to actually coach her through it. And in that moment, when she stood up and delivered her 30-second message and people in the room started clapping because she finally was able to do it without fear. Well, there was a little bit of fear, but it was like she overcame those, the butterflies. It was that light bulb moment that was like, this is what I'm called to do. I'm called to help people really find the clarity, find the message, find the words that communicate who they are and how brilliantly they serve others.
It seems so simple. What do you do? I'm a teacher. I'm a speaker. It seems like such a simple question. And like you said, all of a sudden when people are put on the spot, it's like, I don't know. So why do you think so many of us struggle with this and struggle with being able to eloquently and simply say what we do?
A lot of it boils down to the clarity, right?
Mhm.
It really is about clarity. How do you take all of the knowledge and all of the amazing things that you do and break it down to a simple 30-second message that communicates? A lot of times people have a tendency to what we call word vomit, right? We throw up on people. We just start talking and we don't know when to stop. And that's because we're searching for the words. We're searching for that one key element that helps people understand what it is that makes us feel like we're delivering value. And when you can communicate that in a very short, succinct way, you have those aha moments and people lean in and want to know more. And sometimes I have to remind my clients, it's not about saying a lot of words. It's about saying enough to get people to go, "Ooh, how do you do that? What do you mean?"
Yeah.
It's not about telling them everything that you do. It's about telling them how you deliver value and who you serve.
Yeah.
And
So
being able to communicate that is not always easy for people. I think one of the biggest things is there is fear around being put on the spot.
Definitely, definitely. And there's two big things that you brought up in that statement. One is the delivering of value. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. My very first guest on this series of shows was Bob Berg, who wrote a book, The Go Giver, which is all about the law of value. And I think that that is such a big thing for people to understand because you're not selling a product, you're not even selling yourself. We have to understand that we're actually selling the value we're delivering. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people are not 100% clear on the value they're bringing in. And then I think, again, the other thing that you talked about is having it done in a very succinct way that brings curiosity because it's not about what we do, it's how what we do can serve them, the value piece, but we want them leaning in. So I think those are really two key points, so bringing those up. Another thing that you brought up several times is this 30 seconds. What is the beauty of the 30 seconds?
The beauty behind the 30 seconds, a lot of people who are in business have a tendency to do a lot of networking with other folks. And in a lot of networking settings, especially with organizations, they ask you to share what you do in a 30-second window. A lot of places actually will time you. Have you
Mhm.
ever timed yourself and tried to say what you do very clearly in 30 seconds or less? Well, that's what we're expected to do. And the value of being able to, again, be very clear with intention of what you do. And I've actually created a formula that I help people understand that keeps them on point. That when you understand what that message is and how to deliver it in that 30 seconds, and most of my clients are able to do it in under 30 seconds, it's almost like it gives you this shot of confidence, right? It
Mhm.
gives you that boost of energy that it's like, wow, she really delivered. She got it done in 30 seconds. How many times do we go to networking events where people are sharing what they do in 30 seconds? We're supposed to be in 30 seconds. And now you're watching your watch like, okay, we're 2 minutes. Is somebody going to hit the buzzer? Like ding,
Yeah.
ding, 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 right? And what happens when you have someone who goes over, number two, it actually is disrespectful to the other people in the room. It's disrespectful to the person who's moderating because now they feel uncomfortable because they're going to have to stop you.
Mm,
And it shows that you don't have command of your communication skills.
sure. And that's a big part.
So again, it comes back to that clarity. What can you say in 30 seconds or less? It's going to help people understand what you deliver and get them to want to know more.
Definitely. Yeah. That is just, so fascinating to be able to bring that in. And I know that some people who are following this might be saying, okay, this sounds great, but what does it actually sound like? Can you give us an example of a great 30-second, either for yourself or someone you work with?
So I knew you were going to ask me that. Right? Yes. So one of the things that I teach people, there's a very simple formula. If you want to share that, and then I
Ah,
can demonstrate
yay.
it. Yeah. Cool. So the most important thing is you want to know who your audience is. Whether you're a business owner or a professional, you want to know who you're speaking to, who's the audience that you're trying to attract to yourself. So that's the key piece, right? We always need to know who our ideal client is. We know that from marketing. But what we need to understand is what's driving them. So the key elements are what's the problem or pain that they're struggling with? How do you solve it for them? But more importantly, not just how you solve it for them, but what's the transformation they can expect to have, right? What is the resolution? Not just the solution, but the resolution. Then what's your call to action? And then the last piece is who you are. People look at me and they go, well, why do you save your name for the end? And I'm like, well, part of that is if you're networking in public, right, in person, you want to catch people's attention from the very beginning, from the first thing that you say,
Mhm.
as opposed to saving it for the end when people are like, oh my gosh, I love what she just said. I need to write her name down so I can talk to her later.
Right.
Right. Virtually, it's a little easier because their names are on the screen, but still, it's also even signaling that you're done for the person who went before, who's going after you, and for the host. So my 30-second message that I've used for a long period of time is, how many of you know someone who struggles to communicate effectively who they are in 30 seconds or less? Well, at 30 Second Success, we help people develop their 30-second message that speaks to their heart, speaks to their audience, and drives more business to their door. If you struggle to communicate, or you know someone who struggles to communicate effectively in 30 seconds or less, schedule a call with me today. I'm Laura Templeton with 30 Second Success.
Beautiful. Very succinct. I love that. The other thing that came up for me when you said putting yourself last is I also think that when you do it this way is it makes it more about them, less about you. And I love how you started with a question. That was something that I've heard more recently as well too, because it draws them in, because most of them are going to be like, yeah, that's me, So I think that that's a great way, and it just makes it more engaging, like you said, and builds in the curiosity. So,
Right. So very valid point. And that's one of the things that I love to teach is you either start with a question or a very strong statement. But if you're leading with a question, raise your hand. And what does that do? If you're in a room full of people and you raise your hand and say, how many of you know someone who struggles with X?
mhm.
And half the room raises their hand. Now you know that either they're thinking of themselves or someone else. That's really important to get the people in the room thinking beyond themselves. So
Definitely.
that how do you know question is excellent for that. And when you get people to raise their hand, now you know who you need to speak to,
Mhm.
right? So
Definitely.
take note of who's raising their hand with you.
Yeah. So you brought up the idea of the raising your hand. What are some other signs that if your message is landing? Because again, it may not just be the 30-second elevator pitch. Maybe it's something that you're using in social media in your marketing. So what are some other signs out there that are going to tell you if your message is landing?
I think the biggest signs for us to understand that our message is laying is engagement. People asking you questions, people asking you to clarify, hey, you mentioned this. Can you tell me more about it? And that's the biggest thing. A lot of people who are sharing content on social media are not putting a call to action. The call to action is key. And that's going to help get people to engage with you. When people are engaging with your content, then you know that your messaging is on point.
Yeah.
And whether it's online or offline, whether it's verbally or in written content, as long as when people are engaging with you and they're asking you questions, I'll tell you, one of the things that drove me crazy when I was networking with a lit tip group was that I had several people come up to me and they go, I don't know how to refer you. So
Mm.
I finally started changing my message to say, how many of you know someone who refuses to come to this meeting because they don't want to have to do their 30-second message? That's who you can connect me with. It changed everything. It changed the dynamic. They started referring me like, oh yeah, I invited so and so and I invited so and so, but they don't want to come because they don't want to have to do a 30-second message. I'm like, well, that's who you need to tell.
Yeah.
It's who you need to connect me with. So
Awesome.
when you are that clear on your messaging, listen to what your audience is giving you as feedback as well. If they're not understanding your message, ask the people in your network, who do you see me as? What do you think I do? You've listened to my message. Is it clear what I do? How do you view what I deliver? And it's interesting because I've done that for a number of folks that have given me their 30-second message when I know and I see them being capable of so much more. I also am able to see them through their client's eyes. And when we start to change some of their messaging, it's you can see the light bulb go off in their minds like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I never realized that that's the impact that I have.
Do you
So
have
it's a gift you can give to other people.
Yeah,
So
do you have a success story, maybe either for yourself or someone else, a before and after, and what the results were after they started working with your system?
I do. I have several. I have a couple that are really favorites. I have a young woman who was working with some really high level folks up in New York. And these were folks that were actually doing some presentations for the UN and things like that. And she was actually coaching them over, some of the anxiety, like helping them through some of the anxiety that they would deal with when they would have to be delivering speeches and things like that, and just helping them, coping skills with the high pressure work. And one of the things that we kind of touched on in her communications, she was talking about that, but she was trying to create a group program where she was bringing people in, and we had, had deep conversations and just kind of walking her through how she worked with people, how they felt safe with her. We started like really looking at her business from the perspective of, is a group program good for your clients?
Mm.
So there was even that there was a structure shift in her business because what happened was she started to realize, oh, the clarity came from the fact that they felt safe with me, they felt that they could trust me. But if I'm expecting them to open up in front of a group, they're not going to want to come. So it change some of the dynamic of her business and how she was offering her services. So that was just one example.
Clarity in Action is proudly sponsored by Telehealth for Her, where women's health finally gets the attention it deserves. At Telehealth for Her, they offer professional, comprehensive medical care designed to optimize your hormones, restore your gut health, and boost your energy. Because let's get real, who doesn't need more energy? Your body is the foundation of everything you build. So let's make sure we are fine tuning it for optimal performance. So if you've been out there crushing it in life, but still feeling a little bit off with some of that brain fog, hormone changes, sleepless nights, or emotions that are all over the place, I'm here to tell you, you are not alone. Telehealth for Her helps ambitious women just like you take back control and feel like yourself again so that you can keep leading with purpose and power. Check them out at mariahprinceallen.com or Telehealth for Her and start your journey back to a vibrant, unstoppable you. Clarity in Action is proudly sponsored by My Cluck Hut. Yes, the soap company that is the one your mother should have warned you about. Now, don't let the name fool you. This eco-friendly soap company will get you clean without feeling dirty. But you know what? My Cluck Hut is about more than just getting clean. They have built and continue to grow a community that gives a cluck about the planet, about people, and about creating a reality where diversity and sustainability are not a pipe dream, but fundamental core values. So when you shop with My Cluck Hut, you're not just buying soap, you're choosing to be a part of something bigger than any one of us can be alone. So if you believe in shopping with purpose and from a brand that isn't afraid to speak truth to power, then go check them out, mycluckhut.com. The 2025 Tennessee Pride Chamber Allied Business of the Year. My Cluck Hut, it's more than a soap company, it's a clucking revolution.
And I think sometimes when you do that for other folks and you show them, you mirror their value for them. And I think that's something that we all do, whether we realize it or not, right? Especially when we're networking with folks and like, oh my gosh, I think you could do this, or I think you could work with this person. It really helps their business. Her business is thriving today because she's able to offer that kind of support to folks that are high level in, really in down in the trenches, getting things done at the UN building. So she's actually pretty successful with that. And then the other one was just, simply I had, like I mentioned before, the woman who was struggling to communicate and not, her business wasn't successful. She was struggling to share who she was in networking events. And it just, being able to help her see herself in the messaging, it was like, wow, her comment to me was, if you believe this about me, why don't I believe this about me?
Powerful.
And sometimes, we need to mirror back to other people what we see for them. And, it really helps them to reimagine their value, right? Reimagine and really, really be more intentional about sharing it. So those are a couple of examples.
Those are amazing. I love that. And, as I'm listening to you and kind of going through your framework, yes, this is for your, 30-second elevator pitch introduction, but I also am kind of wondering and wanting to get your take. I think that this framework can work in several other areas. I'm thinking of leadership because there's so many people that are following this that are leaders. And how would you maybe bring this in and coach a leader on this to make sure that when they're giving a presentation, having a sales meeting, maybe a rally or something, how can they use this framework to build better connection and alignment?
So that's a beautiful question, and that is one of the things that I do in my leadership work with my compassionate leadership program is helping people understand that communication is so powerful. And when you are working with the folks on your team, to be very purposeful on identifying where they're struggling, how to communicate the struggles that you see, giving them intentional support, and inviting them to work with you. Right? It's that partnership that you're looking for, that alignment that you're looking for within the cohesiveness of your team. So being able to do that, and then as well as helping professionals be able to communicate outside of the organization, being able to be at an event, or and whether it's a cocktail party, a networking event, out on the golf course, you still need to help, number one, promote yourself and your skills in a way that people are going, aha, she's really contributing to the organization, but then also to promote the organization. And that's one of the things that we are finding. I don't know about you, but I'm probably going to date myself. When I first got out of college, I worked for RCA. And at RCA, one of the things that I absolutely loved that they used to do is they would send out a newsletter and let us know all the different projects that were going on within the organization, if they were looking for team members, who we could contact or send referrals to or resumes to, if we knew anyone. They were always looking for their employees to help them hire new hires. Reason for that is we all know that referrals are easier to hire. It takes less time to find the right person, and they stay longer. It's just the statistics speak for themselves when it comes to that. So when you can do something like that, but we've kind of lost that within our organizations because we're not encouraging our employees, our professionals, to actually be speaking about the organization in a positive light.
Yeah, for sure. Those are really good. You bring up these words of, clarity and confidence a lot, also compassion. I know that those are three of your cornerstones in your business. What is one thing that you really would like every professional, leader, entrepreneur to know about the importance of weaving together clarity and confidence and also compassion?
I think the biggest thing is, number one, the clarity in the work that we're doing, really embracing the what you deliver to the organization, whether you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, business owner, or a professional, really diving into understanding the clarity of what you deliver for the organization. When you understand that, your confidence grows.
Mhm.
Embrace it, be strong in that, and be vigilant in sharing that, being clear in what you're delivering and how you're contributing. And then the compassionate piece is, again, leading with heart. Leadership is all about being compassionate towards your employees, showing empathy, being able to embrace your gifts in a way that is heartfelt, and being able to communicate it well. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces, is when we understand that when we come from a place of compassion, we put ourselves in other people's shoes. What are
Mm.
they feeling? How are they feeling it? And then what do they need to hear from me to help them get to the next stage?
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh,
I think everything that you're talking about is so important because communication is key. We communicate with our words, with our actions, everything that we do, and learning how to do it in a smarter, more succinct way, and making sure that, again, it has that clarity of being in alignment so that how we're communicating also lines up with the true meaning and, again, the vision is so critical. So I just appreciate you sharing time. I would love to just have you share because, again, I know you've written several books. I know you have your programs. Share a little bit about what is next for you.
well, next, I'm just going to keep writing books. I love writing books. I was just invited to speak to a conference for travel associates. And, I love speaking. I love being out there sharing what I've learned. Just training other people on how to be good communicators is exciting for me. So, just launched a new website, which I'm excited about. I do have a new podcast coming out in the fall. So there's a lot of things on the horizon.
I love
And 10 years into business, you look back and you go, okay, this is how far I've come. Now, how far can I go?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about. So I have a couple new books in the works. I
Hey, can't wait.
actually, yeah, yeah. So I've got a couple. Yeah, not just one. I have a couple. And that's one of the things, just between you and I and your audience, I will tell you, once you get that first book down, it's like, oh, this isn't so bad. Maybe I'll write another one. You get the next one down, it's like, okay, now I'll write another one. So like it took me 5 years to write the first one. The second one came a couple years later, and then within a year, I wrote the third one, and now
Uh,
I'm writing two or three more. So, now all of a sudden, it's like the floodgates have opened up. Like, wow, this is pretty cool.
I'm the
So,
same way. I'm in the midst of putting together my fourth, so I'm right there with you.
yeah,
So fun.
yeah, right.
Uh,
It is fun. It is a lot of fun to jump in and do that. So, and I love embracing AI. And that's one of the things that I think is really important for your audience to understand. AI can really help you gain a lot of clarity around your messaging and your content. So, embracing it, allowing it to help you to be more efficient, more consistent in your work is powerful. I love doing that, and coaching people through how the real impact that AI can have on your daily day-to-day communications. And it's just amazing. The opportunity is there if you're willing to embrace it and and use it well.
Yeah. Very cool. So fantastic. Laura, thank you so much for sharing time. You have just given us a lot of wisdom, a lot to think about. And I know that your framework is going to be so impactful for many. One last final question for you today. Sitting where you sit today, learning everything you've learned up to now, how do you now define success for yourself?
That's a really good question. How do I define success for myself? The fact that I've made impact on others people's lives is that's the gift, right? And when I get a chance to wake up every day and make a difference, that's success.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I can't wait to keep following you and keep learning from you.
Clara, thank you so much for having me on Clarity. I appreciate you so very much.
Well, man, Laura really knows her stuff. I love, some of the things that she talked about in bringing this up is, especially her framework. Getting clear. I think so many times we try to talk to everyone and that just messes us up. So again, getting really clear. Who are you talking to? Who is your target audience? It can reach the other people too, but you got to get really clear on who that target is. So who is it? What drives them? What is their pain point? How are you going to be a solution? And more importantly, what can they expect? What is that transformation after working with you? Then that call to action and bringing in if you or someone. I thought that was brilliant because, again, it's not just about them, it's who do they know. And then introducing yourself last so that you're making it more about them, but then also remembering that. I love when she started the first thing with focusing on what is the value that you can bring to them. Remember, it's not about selling anything, it's about delivering value. Money flows to value. People will pay for value. So you've got to be clear on the value that you are delivering and how to articulate that. And then also pique their curiosity so that they're like, tell me more. There's going to be a million people that do what it is that you do. You have to be able to stand out so that they know how what you do is going to impact them or the people they care about. So many things in here. I think this is a great exercise for all of you to use to go through that framework, listen to this again, and really work on how you can build your message so that you can stand out, you can secure more clients, and also build your own confidence. Because when you stand up in front of people and you are spot on and you're like, this is what I do and how it can help, you're going to be unstoppable because you're going to want to be out there sharing this with everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure to share this with others who might be struggling in finding their own voice. And go ahead and make sure to stop by and give our show a review and a 5-star rating. I'm Clara Capano. We'll see you next time for another episode of Clarity in Action.